Chapter 18. Kathy stayed home sick from school the next day and couldn't play in the game against Comer Middle School. Dressed in their soccer uniforms, blue and gold striped jerseys, and white shorts and matching knee-high socks, Tom and the other girls waited on the field as Martha counted the players again and again, as if hoping that the next count would yield someone new. Bethany dribbled the ball, rolled it onto her foot, tossed it into the air, and began bouncing it with her knees. Show off. But she had a right to be. She didn't miss and kept going until Tom lost count. Coach Pendergrass called Tom over. Coach's hair was a fluffy mess, curling like uncooked ramen noodles around her face. She scribbled furiously on her clipboard, crossed out what she'd written, and muttered to herself. Kathy usually played middle or right forward, two of the most important positions on the team, and it was unthinkable that Tom could replace her, which meant shuffling a lot of players. To her surprise, Tom was placed in the left center, a weak spot, but at least she wasn't useless in defense. The girls glanced back at her with uncertainty and a bit of fear, but whether actual fear of her or just fear of losing the game with her on the field, she couldn't tell. She thought of Cassie Houghton, who, according to Coach, had finally come home from the hospital, but would have to wear a brace for a month while her ribs healed. She let out a sigh of relief that Kathy wasn't there, watching her with suspicion. The game started. The ball hardly ever came to Tom's side, but she still got to run up and down the field with the rest of the team and pretend she was important. She couldn't help grinning, relishing the fact that she was playing. She'd missed this, missed the way her feet pounded on the grass, her pulse racing, her teammates by her side. All eyes on the ball. She glanced at the bleachers, where some of the other girls' moms sat, sharing bags of chips and plastic bins full of cupcakes and cookies. She missed having Ma there, but once again, Ma had to work. "No!" someone shouted, and Tom looked up just in time to see the ball heading towards her. "Kick the ball! That way!" Coach waved frantically at the opposing goal. Bethany and Sarah, who usually scored, were too far upfield. Tom was the only one on the team anywhere near the ball, and the other team was closing in fast. Okay, do we have a good feeling about this? Do we have a bad feeling about this? I don't know. Whew. Tom looked at their faces. She could do it. Send it flying. Gentle, though, so no one got hurt. Her foot shot out, but it was too late. A red jersey pushed past and stole the ball, a blur as she ran down the field and scored. The other team erupted in cheers. Tom's team moved back into position, shoulders slumped. Pinpricks of heat traveled on her skin from all the dirty looks. Sarah shook her head, and Tom knew the rest of the week's practices were going to be dangerous. As the referee set up the next play, someone giggled to her left, but there was no one there. She was the player farthest left, and the bleachers were on the other side. She shook her head and focused the ball. Spurred on by anger, Bethany rushed forward and claimed the ball, dribbling it down the field. As Tom followed, she heard another giggle to her left. This time, she was sure she hadn't imagined it. "Wukong?" she whispered under her breath. "Oh, are we really on a first-name basis now?" The Monkey King's voice spoke out of nowhere. "You're here." This made her feel better, like she had an ally, and relief wrapped around her. She wasn't alone. She didn't have to do this alone. "What is the purpose of this game? Running around like horses, kicking a random object?" "We need to put the ball in that goal." Tom ran with her team, but whenever the ball came close, another player got there first. "Well then, put the ball in the goal," he giggled. "You can do it. Why did you stop earlier? You're better than everyone here. You can run faster than them. You don't get tired. You can kick farther than any of them, too." "I can't. If I kick too hard, everyone will find out about my strength." "Then why play at all?" "Because..." She searched for the right answer. In West City, it had been something to do with Tui and her friends. Here, she had joined out of habit, a way to get to know the other students, maybe even make friends. And the truth was, Tom loved soccer. She loved being part of something, part of a team with a single objective. Sure, it was tough, but when they scored or won, it was the best feeling. "Because I love it," she said. He was quiet for so long she thought he'd left, but then she noticed the ball was doing strange things, making its way toward her, slowly but surely, despite her own team's efforts to stop it. If someone kicked it away, it came to a sudden stop, gravitating toward her like she was at the bottom of the downward slope. "Go, Tom! Now's your chance!" The Monkey King's voice was pushing her forward. No, he was pushing her forward. his hands at her back. She wanted to stop, but it would have looked too funny to everyone watching, so she let him move her. Kick it! Go! She couldn't. Everyone was watching. Something knocked against the back of Tom's leg, and her foot connected with the ball, sending it down the field. The Monkey King's giggle bounced off her eardrums as he ran with her, his shrieks drowning out any other sound. Each time she came close to the ball, he moved her leg so that she kicked it with just the right amount of strength. Even though the Monkey King was the one controlling her strength, forcing her to use exactly the right amount, Tom felt the rush of understanding, the excitement that came with mastering a new skill. She had always either used too much power, usually breaking something in the process, or she'd held back altogether. Now she realized that she didn't have to, that if she was disciplined enough, she could actually play and live and do the things she wanted. Tom had left her teammates and the red jerseys behind, and it was just her, the goalie, an invisible demon god, and the thrill that she had never come this far before. The Monkey King giggled and said, "It's all yours," and Tom thought he was gone. But he wasn't gone. He didn't leave her. Still, this time, she was the one who controlled the kick. Her foot connected with the ball, and it flew into the air, rose above the goalie's outstretched arms, and hit the net. The buzzer sounded. The referee blew his whistle. Tom had won the game. Yay! Even though she'd scored the winning goal, the girls didn't treat her any better. Whispers echoed in the locker room, and she heard snippets of the conversation. "Did you see the way the ball flew?" "Yeah, like there was a ghost or something." "Do you think she did it?" "Maybe, but how?" "Who knows? She's such a freak." Tom hid her face in her locker, breathing in the smell of old sneakers and the chemical singe of chlorine. The elation she'd felt from the game was quickly diluted with shame and guilt and confusion. If she avoided the ball, she was a coward. But if she won the game, she was a freak. What was she doing wrong? She wished Small wasn't working late. She wouldn't be by to pick Tom up for another hour. After everyone left, Tom found herself back on the soccer field. A dewy mist had settled over the grass, and she felt the chill seep in through her sweats and hoodie. "Monkey King?" she whispered, hoping he was still there. Silence. The field was empty. The boys' soccer team had gone home. The track and field runners were long gone. She would practice alone then. The Monkey King had shown her that she could still play soccer even though she was super strong. With more practice, she could play better, score more, become an excellent teammate. She grabbed a ball from the storage bin and placed it in front of the goal. Out of habit, she glanced left and right before pulling her leg back and delivering a kick. The first shot was too strong. The ball crashed into a goalpost, which skidded back by a foot. The second shot was way too weak. The third was better. After a few rounds, she realized she had to keep it at about a tenth of her actual kick strength, and then she decided she needed to divide that in half again. "Not bad," a voice said out of nowhere. She jumped. The Monkey King giggled. "You really need to stop the invisible thing." "What if someone sees me?" "Can't you change into a man or something? Isn't that one of your powers?" "I can transform into other animals, yes. But humans are so ugly! Why would I want to hide this face?" His furry head popped up in front of her. He batted his eyelashes and then disappeared. "Let me see what you can do." Tom took a deep breath. "Okay." She kicked the ball, but got nervous, now that she knew she was being watched, and miscalculated. The ball rolled forward a few feet. "Weak! You underestimate yourself." She tries again. "Better stop holding back," he said. "I have to hold back. I'm too strong." For this world, yes, for the mortals, but not with me. She wished she could see his face. There it was again, that tease, a glimpse, a mention of this other world, one she might belong to more than the one she was in. She wanted to ask about it. No, to see it. "Are there others like me? Like you?" He hesitated, and hope rose. Maybe she wasn't alone. "No, not like you," he said. "You're different, better than anyone I've met. You and I, we make a great team. You're strong, almost as strong as me, and with my cunning and magic, we can do anything." Tom beamed. That wasn't the answer she'd hoped for, but it still felt good. No one complimented her like this. Not her teachers, not even Ma, and he knew about her strength and praised her for it when most people would have been afraid. She tried the ball again, with the Monkey King whispering advice, made the goal 10 times in a row. She jumped up and down, her fists in the air, grin on her face. Then a tingly feeling chilled the back of her scalp, like she was being watched. She stilled, turned. Ka was standing in the small row of bleachers on the side of the field. "You should go," she said, softly to the Monkey King. He sniffed in Ka's direction. That boy is not what he says he is. The back of her neck tingled more. Mochi hadn't liked Ka either, had barked and growled at Ka for no reason when her dog was usually friendly with strangers. Then again, Mochi hadn't let Tom pet him in months, so she doubted her dog was a good judge of character. Don't trust him, the Monkey King whispered. He's deceiving you. Ka took Tom's gaze as an invitation, jumped down from the bleachers, and approached her. He looked incredibly grown up, in ankle-length chinos and a plaid button-up shirt, his hair stylishly rumpled, his bangs swept casually over his brow. He held up a palm, and she slapped it but missed and tried again. Smooth. Her hand came away hot. She felt hot standing this close to Ka. She stepped back, and the evening air cooled the flush of her skin. Hey, what's up? Her voice was too squeaky, her words too fast. Had he noticed the Monkey King? Could he see him when he was invisible? What are you doing here? I came to ask you about your dress, Ka said. He smiled, and his cheekbones reflected the light in that pearl-like shimmer she'd seen before, but when he tilted his head back, it disappeared. Weird. My what? She asked. Your dress, for Culture Day. Tom groaned. She had forgotten all about that. She'd only agreed to dressing up and matching with Ka to get her mom off her back. Are you wearing white pants or black pants? He asked, whipping out his phone and pulling up pictures to show her. White would look better with your owl dye, but black is better with mine. Black, then. Really? Tom shrugged. No matter what pants she wore, Culture Day would be disastrous. But maybe she could get out of it somehow. She still had time to think of something. Sweet! Ka tucked his phone away. Hey, great job earlier at the game. You watched my game? Yeah. An awkward pause. It was the Monkey King, wasn't it? That's how you scored. Tom opened and closed her mouth. Lie. Make something up. Ka didn't understand the Monkey King. How could he? She laughed. Come on, she said. Her laugh had sounded fake, even to herself. You don't think I couldn't have scored on my own? I'm good. You saw all this, didn't you? She waved at the soccer ball, abandoned in the goal. I knew it was him, Tom. And thank heavens, her phone buzzed. My mom's here, Tom said, glancing at the screen. Ka tucked his hands in his pockets, looking hopeful and expectant. Don't trust him, the Monkey King had whispered. But he looked so innocent and puppy-like, and she didn't want to be rude. Plus, he'd watched her game, and he was being so nice to her. He had always been nice to her. She hesitated. Do you want to ride home? He hoped he would say no, but his megawit grin lit up his face, those sharp incisors gleaming. That'd be great! Where are your grandparents? She asked as they walked to the front of the school. If the Monkey King was following them, he was completely silent. Probably hanging out with friends. Tom laughed. Old people had friends? But realized Ka was serious. Really? What do they do? Play Mahjong, mostly. Or 13. I love 13! It was a popular strategy card game where players had 13 cards and followed a set of rules to get rid of them. She had something in common with Ka. Well, with his grandparents. We should play it! Ka walked with a bounce like he was always about to make a flying leap. You should come over. It's better with 4 people. When Ma and I play, Tom said, we pass out the whole deck, so it's more like 26, but it makes it easier to guess what the other person has. I used to do that with my dad. It was the first time Ka had volunteered information about his parents. Did he let you in? That's really not his style. Ka looked down at his shoes. He likes to win. He thinks something's only worth doing it if it means beating someone else. Even his own son? If he let me win all the time, how would I learn to beat him? Beating someone isn't the whole point of the game. Not always, as long as you're having fun. My dad never has fun. Ka still hadn't looked up, and now he shrugged his shoulders like he was trying to shrink himself. Tom almost reached out to pat him. Maybe you can play against my mom. She always lets me win. Usually until I recently started winning. Then she got more... They'd reached the car. Ma leaned over to smile and wave at Ka. Ruthless? Tom opened the door and gave Ka a strange look. Fair.